What night is this so long and drear, when all good folk would gather near to light their pyres, the solstice fires, and tend the blaze till morning? All of nature sing as the days grow long, so comes the spring. All hail the Lord our Son, the babe of our blessed Lady. So build a fire strong and high, the wind will be his lullaby. Returning King, of thee we sing, watching the Yule log burning. All of nature sing as the days grow long, so comes the spring. All hail the Lord our Son, the babe of our blessed Lady. Come join me by the Yuletide flame to call our Lord by his holy name. By fire bright invoke his light, keeping watch till dawning. All of nature sing as the days grow long, so comes the spring. All hail the Lord our Son, the babe of our blessed Lady. So build a fire strong and high, the wind will be his lullaby. Returning King, of thee we sing, watching the Yule log burning. All of nature sing as the days grow long, so comes the spring. All hail the Lord our Son, the babe of our blessed Lady.
Good morning. Welcome. I am Molly Brinkerhoff, today's worship associate. I'm glad you are here in the sanctuary, as well as all the others that are watching us virtually. We are definitely in a new era. Welcome to this December Sunday service. We know you come here for different reasons: to find community, to seek your spiritual and personal truths, to question, to nurture your heart and soul, and to be nurtured, to explore new ideas, to find comfort, and perhaps to find the answers to some of your bigger questions. We welcome you. We know you come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. We hope you will find comfort, connection, and challenge and love here. We hope you will find ways to provide outreach to others in our Unitarian Universalist Church in Idaho Falls, in our local community, and in our world community. We do have a few announcements. Please silence your phones. I was guilty of that a couple of weeks ago. We will be having joys, sorrows, and concerns today, and for those of you in the sanctuary, there's some paper in the back that you can write your joy or concern on. For those who are watching virtually, now is the time to put them in the chat box so that we can light a candle for you at the appropriate time. So, are you glad to be back? If you're glad to be back, maybe you'd be willing to lend a hand once a month. We are looking for someone or a couple of someones to be our greeter for the fourth Sunday of each month. If this sounds like something you would be interested in taking on, talk to Reverend Kevin or Pam Lilburn, who is in the back of the church. Stewardship campaign. Most of you who've been members for a while or friends should have received a pledge form in the mail. Please be sure to check it out and think about what your pledge will be for this year. Again, we are a church that is totally self-sustaining. We don't get money from anyone else. And again, while we have no longer having an offertory time during this service, it is still important. So if you can't pledge, but you can donate, we would gratefully receive any donations to support this congregation. Just go to our website to click on the Give button, and we thank you for your support. Did we have any other announcements? Oh, there's the sock tree. We do have a sock tree. If anybody wants to, if you at home or here want to send socks in, all these socks will be given away to those in need, and they keep the cold out. Anything else? Nope, I guess, okay. So we will now move into the sacred time of worship. We are about to enter sacred time. We are about to make this time and this place sacred by our presence and intention. I invite us to turn down the volume on our fears and to loosen the armor around our hearts. Don't take my word for it. Do it as slowly as you need to. If you take a little risk with these good people, you may find that they have the same human needs as you do. So breathe. Take a breath. Let go of the expectations placed on you by others and those they taught you to place on yourself. Drop the guilt and the shame, not to shirk accountability, but to an honest expectation of the possibility of forgiveness. Let go of the thing you said the other day. Let go of the thing you dread next week. Be here in this moment and breathe. I will now ring the peace bowl 3 times. Take deep breaths and let go. We will begin our service with our prelude.
The past year, for the spirit of solstice is still living. Yada da 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 yada da 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 yada da da da. We'll count all our blessings as the mother lays down with snow as her blanket, covering the ground. Thanks to the mother for the life that she brings. She'll wake up to warm us again in the spring. Oh, count all your blessings, for the cold will pass. Oh, share the harvest, and the sun will shine again.
The poor, the hungry, the sick, and the lost. These are our children, no matter the cost. Come near the fire, our harvest will share. For the spirit of solstice is still living there. Count all your blessings, for the cold will pass. Oh, we must share our harvest, for the spirit of solstice is here.
It's really pretty. Our church covenant was decided upon by a group of members from here in our congregation. Our covenant, along with our 7 Unitarian Universalist principles, is our guide to how our congregation will relate to each other and the world. As I read our church covenant, please recite it with me. And so, love is the spirit of this community, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And we will now be lighting our chalice. If you are at home and have a candle or chalice available, please light yours with us. Our chalice lighting is As the Wild Wind Bites by Ben Soul. On a bare, frozen branch, a bubble forms frost patterns. Let us hold a quiet moment together as our chalice is lit. As the wild wind bites, so does the still flame warm us. As the deep snows block out doors, so does the gentle flame bring us out. As the crackling cold air stops our breath, so does the radiant flame draw from us the words we need to give and to receive. Words of greeting, words of comfort, words of solace, words to challenge our minds, and words to bring us to action. Let us gaze upon this common flame so that we remember who we are and what we can do when we are together.
Good morning. Our call to worship this morning is the poem The Shortest Day by Susan Cooper. So the shortest day came, and the year died, and everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people, singing, dancing, to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreen. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. Through all the frosty ages, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight. The shortest day, as promise wakens in the sleeping land, they carol, feast, give thanks, and dearly love their friends and hope for peace. And so do we here now, this year and every year. Welcome, Yule. Now I invite you to enjoy our choral anthem of Sancta Lucia.
Lucia Morning in Sweden by Eva Rydacher. It is December 12th in Sweden. Snow is piling up outside the Svensson house. The 3 Svensson children are excited because this is their favorite time of year. Hey, Mama, it smells like Christmas. What are you baking? Your favorite, Carl, pepperkakor. Tomorrow is a special day. Do you know why, says Mama. I think I know. If you are making pepperkakor, it is almost Christmas, and tomorrow's December 13th. That's Lucia Day. That's right. In Sweden, Lucia Day means Christmas is getting close. Sophie and Louise will be coming in soon. Can you help me get ready to make the lussekatter buns? Sure, Mama. Do you remember what we need? I know they have raisins and something that makes them yellow, says Carl. Very good. A spice called saffron makes them yellow and makes the buns smell good, too. Lucia Day is tomorrow, girls, so get your jackets and boots off and you can help us. You can bake the buns while I go out and pick the lingonberries for Sophia's Lucia crown. Mama, I want to be Lucia too, Louise whines. You were Lucia last year. I know you'll make a perfect attendant this time, and Carl will be a wonderful star boy. This dough is yummy, says Carl, licking his fingers. Don't eat it, shrieks Sophie. We need it for tomorrow, says Louise. Carl, you just take care of the raisins. Sophie and I will make the buns. Papa's home. Hey, everybody, it sure smells like Christmas. Can I try a Lusicot bun? Nay, Papa, they're for tomorrow. Okay, I'll wait. Mama says, what are you laughing at? Is Papa making funny faces behind my back again? Remember, you children have to hurry and have supper now so you can get to bed early. Off you go. Papa and I will be in to say goodnight. We can't wait for tomorrow, says Sophie. I'm going to sleep with my Starboy hat on, says Carl. You can't do that, Louise teases Carl. Your head will get pointed. Oh, I love Lucia Day. I remember how happy I was to be Lucia when I was young, says Mama. But now we have a lot of work to do. Can you iron the gowns and Carl's shirt while I finish the Lucia crown? Sure, I'd love to help. Wake up, Sophie. Wake up, Louise. Wake up, Carl. Is it Lucia time already, the children ask. Yes, it's December 13th, Lucia Day. Time to wake up, Papa. Oh, dear, what happened to all the pepper kakor? There were only 2 left. We don't know, say Sophie and Louise. Do you know where the pepper kakor are, Carl? Maybe Tomtin or the cat or the dog ate them. Tomtin is the house gnome. Please tell me. I won't punish you, but we do need to find the cookies. I put some in my Starboy hat so they would be ready to give to Papa, and now they're all broken. Never mind, Carl. We can eat the crumbs, but next year, don't put them in your hat. Sophie, you first, then Louise, then Carl. Stop hitting me, Carl, or I'll tell Papa what you did with the pepper kakor, says Louise. Oh, you are such good singers, and the Lucia buns are wonderful, and I love the pepper kakor crumbs. Why don't you have some, says Papa. Has Mama made some hot chocolate for you? Shall we go to Grandma Gunhild and Grandpa Axel with pepper kakor and Lucicater? Yeah, the children yell. I'm going to teach Teddy Lucia's song, says Carl. Teddies can't talk, says Sophie. My Teddy can sing. And they sing in the car on the way to Grandma and Grandpa's house. Shh, we want to surprise Grandma and Grandpa. Are you ready, Mama asked softly. Okay, we're ready now, whispers Sophie. Do you remember the words? Sophie asked Louise and Carl. I'll copy you, Carl whispers back. Papa rings the doorbell. Grandma peeks through the peephole, unlocks the door, and tiptoes back to bed. Sancta Lucia, the children sing. Grandpa is surprised and happy. Oh, you children must have practiced a lot. You sound so good, and what wonderful bakers you are. Delicious, especially the crumbs. Children ask Grandpa, do you know why we celebrate Lucia Day? No, why, Grandpa? When I was a child, I was told that Lucia was a saint, a very good person who brought food to the hungry people in Sweden during the longest, darkest winter night, a long time ago. That's right, says Grandma. Sancta Lucia wore a crown with candles to brighten the dark days in Sweden. Now we bake the Lucia buns, and give them to other people to remind us to be good like Lucia. Speaking of that, let's give some to our new neighbors. They just moved to Sweden from another country, and they probably don't know about Lucia Day. Let's give them some pepper kakor and Lucicater, Louise says. Thank you so much for doing this, says the neighbor. This is such a nice time, and the children love it. The buns and cookies are delicious. And I made the crumbs, says Carl proudly. It's almost time for school. You'd better get ready for the big Lucia performance for your teacher, says Mama. Okay, they say, and kiss their grandparents goodbye. Next year, I'll be Lucia, says Louise to Sophie. Well, Mama says, it looks like Lucia Day is over. You had such a big day, and you were all wonderful. Put your gowns in the laundry room. Oh, we are so tired, says Sophie. Just have a little supper and go to bed. The end.
Ours is a welcoming community where we find connection, a spiritual community where we find meaning. Ours is a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. We take this moment to reflect on our joys and sorrows and acknowledge the mutual support of our community. I will now read the joys, concerns, and sorrows we received, and Reverend Kevin will light a candle for each. First, I have a joy from Victoria McDonald that the northern flickers are appearing once again at her suet feeders, along with many smaller birds, such brave creatures. We have a sorrow from Cindy and Bill Miller. They just received word that Cindy's second mother during her childhood passed on Friday morning at age 95. She had a wonderful spirit and hold her family in our heart. I also have a joy, I guess, that I know this doesn't sound like a joy, but our little dog Apollo had surgery on Monday for a rare hip thing that they don't really know what causes it. But he's recovering and should be able to be active in 2 weeks. So that's our joy. I have also a concern talking to my son who lives in Brooklyn, New York, and just with Omicron surging again, he was going to meet with my sister today, but he's not sure that they're all going to have to corona test before they even try to meet up. And it's a concern and a sorrow that this is coming. So, and that is all we have. So we light one more candle to remember those who have spoken, those they have named, and those we hold in the silence in our hearts.
Our reading this morning is the poem In Celebration of the Winter Solstice by Stephanie Noble. Do not be afraid of the darkness. Dark is the rich, fertile earth that cradles the seed, nourishing growth. Dark is the soft night that cradles us to rest. Only in darkness can stars shine across the vastness of space. Only in darkness is the moon's dance so clear. There is mystery woven in the dark, quiet hours. There is magic in the darkness. Do not be afraid. We are born of this magic. It fills our dreams that root, unravel, and reweave themselves in the shelter of the deep, dark night. The dark has its own hue, its own resonance, its own breath. It fills our soul, not with despair, but with promise. Dark is the gestation of our deep and knowing self. Dark is the cave where we rest and renew our soul. We are born of the darkness, and each night we return to the deep, moist womb of our beginnings. Do not be afraid of the darkness, for in the depth of that very darkness comes a first glimpse of our own light, the pure inner light of love and knowing. As it glows and grows, the darkness recedes. As we shed our light, we shed our fear and revel in the wonder of all that is revealed. So do not rush the coming of the sun. Do not crave the lengthening of the day. Celebrate the darkness, here and now. A time of richness, a time of joy.
And to his monkey
I'm not sure how you would ever prove it, but I wouldn't be surprised if the celebration of the annual Winter Solstice was the first true holiday observed in human history. For one thing, once humans developed agriculture, knowing when the days would begin to lengthen and growing season would begin would be critical to survival. And let's face it, don't we all need something to celebrate in the cold, dark days of winter? Life is simpler and easier during the warmer months of the year, but winter has always been a life-threatening challenge for non-furry creatures like us. Hypothermia can kill you in only a few hours without proper clothing or shelter, and darkness alone can impact our mental health. Seasonal affective disorder is a real problem in the high latitude regions of the earth, where long dark winter nights are routine, causing feelings of fatigue, depression, and hopelessness. No wonder we created rituals to mark the longest night and return of the sun, lighting bonfires and going a-wassailing. And although the word wassail has become associated with a seasonal mulled hot beverage made with ale and spices and other ingredients, which admittedly sounds pretty good right now, the word wassail comes from an old Anglo-Saxon greeting, wassail, which means be whole or be healthy. So let me waste no time in wishing wassail to you all as winter begins and viruses run amok. Maybe next year we can offer everyone a cup of mulled apple cider after the service. Just the smell of mulled cider puts me in a festive mood. About a decade ago, my family was fortunate to spend part of a very cold, snowy night around this time of year in Old Sturbridge Village in Massachusetts, sipping mulled cider around a nice hot bonfire. If you ever get such a chance, I recommend it. Officially here in Idaho, the winter solstice will occur this year on Tuesday, December 21st at 8:58 a.m. local time. It is the moment in the Earth's annual revolution around the sun which marks the maximum tilt of the Earth's axis away from the sun. So maybe you can set an alarm on your phone or make a note on your calendar and say a short prayer of gratitude for the sun at that moment. Take time to give thanks for the gift of light and warmth, like so many generations before us. Neither we nor the earth could exist without the sun. And human beings have understood this for a very long time, long before science revealed the origins of our solar system and how truly dependent we are on the sun. But as Stephanie Noble's wonderful poem reminds us, the solstice is a time to celebrate the dark as well as the light. Too often, darkness gets a bad reputation, and is associated with evil and malevolence. There are good reasons we humans evolved to fear the dark when our senses are limited and nocturnal predators make their rounds. But most of the time, our fears are unwarranted. If anything, there is too much light in modern times, driving away the darkness, but also blinding us to the full beauty of a star-filled night, unless we seek out places far from city lights. Looking at the heavens on a clear, cold night in a dark place can be a dizzying experience of awe and wonder. The cold, dry air on a calm winter night allows the light from distant stars to be more visible and less perturbed as it reaches our retinas after traveling unimaginable distances for an incredibly long time, a magical experience of an ancient past. And of course, regular cycles of darkness and light are also essential to our well-being and that of countless other creatures. So on the longest night of the year, it is good to celebrate both the dark and the light. As I mentioned at the start, there is evidence that the winter solstice has been an important ritual observance for at least 10,000 years, and probably much longer. Some music. Stonehenge and other Neolithic sites reveal that ancient peoples were well aware of the solar year and established religious sites to celebrate the important milestones of the solstices and the equinoxes. And in the millennia that followed, sites aligned to the solar calendar were built around the world in diverse cultures, and rich traditions emerged to celebrate the winter solstice. Some of these traditions have continued until modern times. For example, an ancient pre-Zoroastrian festival called Shab Eyalda, which means Night of Birth, is still celebrated in Iran, originally marking the triumph of the sun god Mithra over darkness and evil spirits. It has been celebrated for more than 5,000 years. People gather to burn fires, enjoy festive foods, and read poetry, sometimes remaining awake all night to celebrate the dawn. And in China, the winter solstice is called Dongzhi, which means winter arrives. It is believed to be based on an ancient harvest festival, but in modern times, it is a time for family gatherings to celebrate the previous year and eat special rice balls and dumplings. A similar festival called Toji is celebrated in Japan, marking the harvest with bonfires on Mount Fuji and other places. Across Europe, the story is the same, with many ancient pagan festivals centered on the solstice, often reimagined and supplanted by Christian holidays. The rituals that the ancient people enjoyed have often been retained in many cases, though they have sometimes been altered in the folklore, or the folklore surrounding the holiday has evolved to reflect a very different cultural interpretation. The most obvious example is the practice of decorating our homes with mistletoe, evergreen boughs, and trees for Christmas, which has ancient associations with the solstice across Northern Europe. And in Scandinavia, the burning of a Yule log is still celebrated by some, although the original Yule logs were enormous and sometimes burned for 12 days. The Yule feast would be celebrated until the log burned out. Although our familiar holiday traditions reflect the European ancestry of most modern Americans, there were Native American solstice traditions, as you might expect. It was a time for storytelling, dancing, and rituals to ensure the survival in the cold months to come. It was an especially important religious holiday for the Zuni and Hopi peoples of the Southwest, who designated a sun priest known as Pequin for the Zuni, who would watch for the exact moment of dawn on the solstice and announce the rebirth of the sun. At that moment, the celebration would begin with dancing, fires, and feasting for the next 4 days. Among Mesoamerican and South American indigenous tribes, it was also an important occasion, though below the equator, The winter solstice would be celebrated in June. The story of St. Lucia, which you heard this morning, is a great example of reimagined folklore. The legend of Lucia of Syracuse, who died in 304 CE, was likely brought to Scandinavia by Christian missionaries in the early Middle Ages. As one of the early recognized saints, she was highly venerated across Europe as early as the 6th century. Her feast day on December 13th reflects the old date of the solstice in the Julian calendar, which was replaced by the reformed Gregorian calendar in the 16th century. The story of a young girl bringing light in the darkness of winter quickly became popular in the North countries, and some believe it was because she represented a Christian reimagining of the Norse god Freya. The special foods now associated with Lucia Day in Scandinavia appear to reflect an ancient pagan custom of morning feasting after the fearful longest night. The white-clad girls depicting Lucia with candle wreaths or crowns began to show up in the late 18th century, becoming widely popular by the end of the 19th century. The origin of the miraculous appearance of St. Lucia to feed the starving people at Lake Vänern is murky too, but it may reflect a similar Italian story that came along with the other parts of the legend. But no matter how the legend around St. Lucia evolved in Scandinavia, Lucia Day remains an important cultural holiday, despite the fact that the Scandinavian countries today are among the least religious people on earth. It seems likely that the contemporary rediscovery of the ancient solar holiday by modern spiritual seekers in the region will retain the trappings of St. Lucia, but with greater emphasis on the solstice, effectively reverting the holiday to its origins in a fascinating way. The Puritan ancestors of the Unitarians and Universalists did not appreciate the traditional merrymaking and pagan overtones of the Yuletide season back in England, when bands of increasingly inebriated folks would go from home to home with their wassail bowl in hand, wishing good cheer all around. They even forbade Christmas celebrations in New England, after all. But to me, it seems that celebrating the solstices and the equinoxes, the natural solar holidays of the year, is a good fit for modern Unitarian Universalists who both appreciate the science and embrace the sacred story of evolution, in which the sun and the earth play such pivotal roles. Although I absolutely love the Christmas holiday traditions, I find the solar holidays offer a unique way to connect to the natural world in a meaningful way. Rediscovering or reimagining rituals to celebrate these holidays acknowledges our place within the interdependent web of all existence, and it acknowledges the rhythms and cycles of nature and reconnects us to all the generations who came before us. And at least in part, these are holidays that should be celebrated outside in nature. Winter solstice is probably the most challenging in this regard for those of us who live in colder climates, but even so, a little time in the cold helps you appreciate the warmth. This is also a great time to embrace the quiet that comes when sound is muffled by snow. I've always enjoyed the quiet contemplation that can be found on a walk in a winter woods, especially after dark. Like Frost says in his poem, "The woods are lovely, dark and deep. The only sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake." Winter reminds us to make time to rest and reflect, to let our weary souls lay fallow for a time like the fields around us. We too can celebrate this season with small gatherings of friends and family in front of a fire, telling stories like the Native Americans. So friends, let us celebrate this time of winter solstice in whatever way brings you joy. It is okay to adopt rituals from other traditions in new ways that you find meaningful. This has been the norm for thousands of years. This is a season for gratitude and the company of those we cherish. May you stay safe and healthy in the cold nights to come, knowing that the days will begin to lengthen and spring will return. Wassail. I invite you now to enjoy our closing hymn, number 235, Deck the Hall with Boughs of Holly.
Deck the hall with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la. See the blazing Yule before us, la 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 la. Strike the harp and join the chorus, la 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 la. Follow me in merry measure, fa la 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 la. While I tell of Yuletide treasure, fa la 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 la. Fast away the old year passes, fa la 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 la. Hail the new year, lads and lasses, fa la 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 la. Sing we joyous all together, fa la 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 la. Heedless of the wind and weather, fa la 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 la.
Our closing words is the poem To Know the Dark by Wendell Berry. To go in the dark where the light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without sight, and find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings.
Before we extinguish this chalice, I would like to have Reverend Kevin light one more candle quickly. I just got a text from our office administrator, Vic Allen, who just had a kidney transplant. My mind just went back. And he said, so far he's doing well, feeling a little rough today, but overall he's doing fine. So our best goes out to him. So we will now extinguish our chalice with the following words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts, and we are together again.